Wonderful. Well, hello, everyone. I am so honored and just excited to introduce to you the, the incredible team of Lisa Rouff and Lynda Doepker. They are the incredible team who has authored a book that I am so excited about sharing with you in my audience. It is the Calm College Method. And I know for many of us who've got high schoolers and we're looking at college, the idea of college is anything but calm. But I am so excited that you have written this book. And as I had an opportunity to read it, it reminded me so much of my experience just this past year with my son, Samuel, as we were going through the college method. And it occurred to me that a number of the things that you talked about, we were actually doing, but I never had the verbiage, I never had the words to describe it. But it's all here in the book. Some of the things that we did right, some of the things we didn't do quite so right. But I'm excited about what you've done. And so I'm going to just kind of step out of the way. I'm going to ask a couple of questions, but I really want to step out of the way, give you two ladies an opportunity to introduce yourselves, and let us know why you wrote this book. I already know because I've just been such a recipient of it, but I want you to say in your words why you wrote this book and why this is so meaningful and so important for not just homeschoolers, not just folks who are in the unconventional learning space, but literally anyone who has a high schooler, anyone who has a child that they're looking at. What is it going to look like down in the future? What is this college road, this road to college, the 2 or 4 year institution look like? So I'm going to take it away. Lisa, why don't you get us started? Then Lynda chime on in and go for it, ladies. The platform is yours.
Well, thank you so much. And thank you so much for having us, Kim. So I'm Lisa Ruff. I'm a psychologist by training originally and also a college counselor. And for me, I became motivated to write this book as I started working in the college counseling space and seeing how stressed out families and kids were by the process. And so for me, as a psychologist, I was particularly sensitive to these issues of anxiety, stress, burnout, and disappointment. And I thought there has to be a better way. And so, in my work and just kind of accidentally, I stumbled along and found the Calm College Method. And I'm really excited to share it with you today.
So grateful, so grateful. And Lynda, you as well. I mean, I love it because the two of you, I feel like tag teamed throughout this book, sharing your experiences. Tell us.
Yeah. So Lynda Doepker, college counselor from the middle of the country outside of St. Louis, and went through this process with my own daughter a few years ago. And it was stressful. Like you, Kim, I did some things right, some things wrong. But I started thinking about it early. And have learned a lot along the way and try and share all of that with families I work with now.
I love it. I love it. So one of the things that you talked about, and I really want to hit this in your book, is for me, I use the term paradigm shift, that there
Mhm.
almost is something of a paradigm shift because I think so many of us go into this college, college process with this idea of this is the end goal. I've got to get them into this college, but you don't talk about this. You talk about shifting that from being the goal oriented to the process. Can you talk a little bit about that and why that matters? Why that matters in this book?
Yeah, well, so an outcome goal, like you mentioned, is I have to get my kid into Harvard,
Mm-hmm.
right? And the fact is that you could do everything right. Your child could do everything right. The application could be beautiful, and you could still not get into Harvard. So
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of variables that are totally outside your control. And if you're putting yourself and your self-esteem towards a goal that is not within your control, that is sort of to me like a recipe for some emotional distress.
Mm-hmm.
But I took this idea from sports psychology, actually. So in sports psychology, they've done a lot of research, and they have found that athletes who focus on the process of preparing for a competition rather than the outcome of a competition actually are more successful. So
Mm-hmm.
this might be if you're a tennis player, let's say, the outcome goal, like Harvard would be, I'm going to win the tournament.
Right.
But you don't know if you'll win the tournament. It could be windy, sun could be in your eyes, the ref could be bad, you could get sick, somebody else could get sick. There's all these things, right? But you can prepare for the tournament and
Hmm.
still feel great about what you've done. So you can,
Hmm.
practice every day, do like a weight workout that helps you play
Hmm.
tennis, do things with the ball machine, whatever it is that you do, and you have these goals and you check them off, you have a sense of accomplishment. You know you've
Right.
walked into that tournament doing the best that you can, feeling the best you
Hmm.
can, then kind of whatever happens, happens.
Hmm.
But your self esteem is still intact and your sense of
Yeah.
control is still intact.
Yeah. I think there's a lot to be said about that. And I know I've talked to my kids, I've talked to others about the idea that sometimes we wrap our identity into that particular outcome. And I think you ladies do a masterful job of helping us tease that out and recognizing that our identity isn't wrapped up into that. Do I get into this um, program or do I do whatever? But instead, by taking these steps and just seeing that level of growth, we're seeing the growth happen inside of ourselves. We're seeing these hitting these benchmarks of things that we're achieving and we're learning and growing in the process, and that in and of itself is our victory. That was one of the big takeaways. Can you speak a little bit to that as well?
Well, I'll tell you some of my experiences. I
Hmm.
just don't think, and we all have teenagers,
Hmm.
they really don't know what they don't know.
Yeah.
And so they have a very narrow view of things. And
Hmm.
I have worked with a lot of high achieving, gifted students, and going to Harvard is
Hmm.
a common theme, although MIT seems to be very popular
Mhm.
right now. Um, but because they don't know that there are 4,000 schools in the country.
Right.
So I think a lot of that is trying to help the students and the parents learn
Hmm.
that there are options out there, and get them off of the just what they think might look good on a sweatshirt or the bumper sticker kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And to have that paradigm shift
Hmm.
from prestige, and
Hmm.
that can be regional.
Hmm.
It's not necessarily always those top 20 schools,
Hmm.
to focus more on fit.
Yeah. Can you talk about that? Because I think that is so important. And I think sometimes I know in our community, sometimes we miss that. Although it's interesting because for a lot of us, the reason we homeschool is because we're trying to find a good environment
Mhm.
for to fit for our kids in elementary and middle and even high school. And I think sometimes that gets lost. So can you talk about that fit? Like what that
Mhm.
looks like?
Mhm. Right. Well, there are sort of a few categories of fit,
Hmm.
and we talk about academic fit.
Hmm.
So, does the school have a major that you're interested in, and are they well resourced for the things that you want to study?
Hmm.
Do they provide the kind of learning style that you want? Are they
Hmm.
discussion based, interactive, things that you might need to learn? So
Hmm.
that's academic fit. Then there is social fit. So, are the people there your people? Do they have the kind of things that you like to do for fun
Hmm.
readily available? Do you feel like you would fit in? Do you feel like you would make a lot of friends? There's clubs that you want to join and things that you want to do there. And then, of course, and this is, not at all the least important, is financial fit,
Right.
right? So, financial fit is, can the family afford it without going broke, going into horrible debt,
Hmm.
or many other nightmare situations? And hopefully, when you create your college list with your child, every school on the list should be a fit. Um, and because there's 4,000 schools, you're going to find like at least eight fits, right? Probably more. But that is why we want to focus on that. So a top rated school could be top rated, but that doesn't mean it's the top school for your personal
Hmm.
child, because your child has a different set of variables that would go into the ranking than US News and World Report, right?
Right. Right.
So we're really trying to personalize that list, the
Hmm.
rankings based on the fit for the student.
I love that. I love that because, and I think that's again, I'm going back to what we do usually in the unconventional learning space is that we look at personalizing, in the early years, we're looking at personalizing their education, up K through 12. And sometimes I think we might forget that. as we move into the college application process. Let me ask you this, because one of my monikers is as this homeschool mythbuster. And I believe, I'm sure that there are many, many myths surrounding the college application process. Can you talk about some of the ones that you've seen and what the true story is with that?
I think the one that I hear a lot is, what do I need to do to get my kid into
Hmm.
whatever school?
Hmm.
And surely there has to be, who's the right tutor?
Hmm.
What's the summer program that's going to make a difference?
Right.
If they take AP chemistry and
Right.
physics, and
Hmm.
they're going to get into Caltech. And of
Right.
course, there's not a magic formula. I
Hmm.
wish there was. We would patent it, and we'd be coming to you from a beach.
I think
Um,
you're so right on that. I think you're so right on that because we do have this idea that if I do X step up, if I do this thing exactly according to plan, it's going to end up like this. But you're saying no.
I am saying no. And
Hmm.
I think it's, if you and I'm a believer in starting to think about college early,
Hmm.
because I think it alleviates the craziness in
Yeah.
senior year.
Hmm.
But if you have a student or family that's doing everything
Hmm.
just to try to get into college,
Hmm.
you're missing out on a lot, I think.
Yeah.
I really think so. Um, what is that student like? I think this is one of the benefits of homeschooling,
Hmm.
honestly, is that you can curate your
Hmm.
education
Hmm.
and you can personalize it, just like you
Hmm.
were saying.
Hmm.
And that's okay because a college is, especially those top 20, 30, 50 schools, they are really looking for someone who's unique.
Hmm.
What, not just how many APs have you taken and you have joined 15 different school clubs.
Hmm.
They're looking for that thing I'm not going to see anywhere else,
Hmm.
whatever that thing might be.
Hmm.
So I think families thinking that there's a secret,
Yeah.
and if they can just unlock it, they'll
Hmm.
they'll be in.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if I
Mm.
could add on another myth that I think
Yes.
I see a lot is that parents just kind of go into the process assuming it's going to be relatively the same as
Hmm.
when they applied for college. And well, it is not the same.
That is
So
so
I'll give
true.
you a personal example. I went to school at the University of Chicago. Now, when I tell young kids
Hmm.
this, they're like, oh my God, how did you do that? Well, it was not that hard because there was a 50% acceptance rate when I
Hmm.
went to the University of Chicago. Could I,
Hmm.
look at high school Lisa getting there now? Not a chance in heck, right? So the acceptance rates have plummeted for all these
Hmm.
schools.
Hmm.
And so, like Lynda mentioned, like you could do all the right things, and
Hmm.
it's not any sort of guarantee that you're going to get to those schools. It
Right.
depends on what those schools are looking for and what they need. And that changes from year to year. You can't even predict that.
Yeah.
So, but it is very, very different. And I think parents will say, well, I'm going to put these schools on my kids' list. I'm going to put Harvard, Yale, Princeton. And then they'll say, well, and I'm like, oh, I don't know, they're really hard to get into. And they'll say, well, I'm going to take them to visit. It won't hurt to look. I'm like, it does hurt to look. It really does. Um, so it just takes a while for them to acclimate themselves to
Hmm.
this new environment that we're in.
Yeah. So, and actually, I want to let's go a little bit deeper into that. What I would love for you guys, what your ladies to do is give us an idea, walk us through what does it look like for a family to go through this calm college method. What does that look like in real terms? What are some of the things that they're doing? And if it's done well, what does that really look like?
So I'll start
Hmm.
because it's a long process,
Hmm.
and
Mhm.
it really is, thinking about those process goals.
Yeah. And
What
can you actually
can
talk
you
about
do?
that? Can you just explain it in like in plain man's language? What does that look like? What are those process goals in plain, like everyday, you know,
Yeah,
how to? Yeah.
absolutely. So instead of, I talked to a family about this just recently about like
Mhm.
scholarships.
Mhm.
You want to control what you can control.
I love that.
You cannot necessarily control if you are going to win the Coca-Cola scholarship.
Mm.
Um,
Hmm.
but if you need money for college, and I don't know any family that wouldn't welcome
Right, right.
some additional cash for college. You can start out with what you can control.
Hmm.
So if that means applying for outside scholarships, have a plan. I'm going to research them. I am going to have an accountability partner, and I'm going to
Hmm.
apply for one scholarship a week or whatever that may be.
Hmm.
But what I really want you to do is focus on your grades and your classes so you can qualify for merit scholarships
Yeah.
because that's where the real money is.
Hmm.
But I think that process goals are controlling what you can control.
Love
And
that.
that's why I say start earlier.
Hmm.
So you're because you still have to do all of the things.
Hmm.
The question is whether you can spread them out
Hmm.
over a few years, or you have to do it all, the first 3 months of your senior year. Um,
Yeah. And in a perfect world, when should most parents be thinking about this? Like when in the perfect world, when do we really start thinking about college?
Oh, you're not going to like this answer,
That's
but I think
okay.
you have to start thinking about it a little bit in middle school. And
Wow.
that's mostly
Hmm.
looking
Yeah.
at
Hmm. I'm gonna
math
be right there.
because, in a lot of conventional public schools, um, they will track kids in
Hmm.
a way so that your child can't take calculus in senior year
Hmm.
unless you start doing some maneuvering and requests in middle school.
Hmm.
So that's one thing that I think is like would set people up
Hmm.
for success. And also just building study habits,
Hmm.
getting them to read. If you have like a really, and many, I think, kids who are in the unconventional schooling
Hmm.
um, milieu are incredibly bright. If you've got one of those
Hmm.
kids, maybe you sign them up for an ACT or SAT just so they can experience the joy that that is, but so it won't
Hmm.
be unfamiliar to them later.
Yeah.
Um, so that's when you should start. And then ninth grade is when you should start really starting to focus on activities.
Hmm.
So obviously going throughout, we always want you to like do the best you can in class, take
Hmm.
classes or study things in a way that is as rigorous as you can, not overloading yourself. We also want you to start finding your interests.
Hmm.
So that might be joining some clubs or trying out some different activities in those early years so that you
Hmm.
can hopefully discover what you like and then refine that as time goes on.
Is there
I,
ever a time when you think that, oh, no, go ahead, Lynda.
I'll give you a quick story about my own student because I don't know about, I think I know about Lisa's teens. I don't know about
Mhm.
yours, Kim's,
Yes.
but mine didn't always listen to me.
Yeah.
Um,
I think that's like every mom. Every
uh,
mom. We know nothing. This one that I loved about your book, it was so real, in addressing our kids and how they sometimes see our parents as like, you don't know anything, whatever. But
yes,
yes,
yeah.
keep proceed.
She thought I was clueless.
Yeah.
But in eighth grade, I took her to a college info session because, that's what you do when your mom's a college counselor. And I just told her to stand tall and act older.
Mhm.
But she heard from a college, from a technical school,
Mhm.
Missouri S&T. I'm forever grateful. And told those students that they would like to see at least 2 years of foreign language, if not
Mhm.
more. And
Mhm.
that really made a difference for her. Like,
Mhm.
okay, I really should take Spanish or French or Chinese or whatever it is you want to take. So, like Lisa mentioned, math, it's math and the foreign language
Mhm.
that I see is the biggest issue with students who don't start thinking about it
Yeah.
until later. When parents don't, we hear it all the time. I just let them figure it out with the high school counselor,
Mm.
which is good 95% of the time. Until you realize you want to be an engineer, but you never got to calculus. And then you realize, oh, well, maybe I could go to MIT, but MIT
Mhm.
does not offer pre-calc.
Right.
You have to come in with that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
those are the two big ones
Mhm.
for reasons for planning early.
I have to ask, after that, did you have a moment where your daughter actually said, "Oh, mom, you were right"? Did you have that "Oh, mom, you were right" moment? No, okay. Wishful thinking, right?
I'm still waiting for that glorious moment. Yes.
I think so many of us moms are doing that. That is so fun. I love it. I love it. So another question I was going to ask, especially in the homeschool and in the unconventional learning center arena, a lot of times the parents, I've done this so many times where we think, oh, are we missing something? How do you talk? Can you talk to the parents that think, oh, I might be missing something? How do you respond to that fear that they have?
Yeah, and I think that because you don't necessarily have all these people around you going
Hmm.
through the same process at around the
Hmm.
same time, you don't get that reassurance.
Right.
But I would say that you're probably not missing something. As
Hmm.
long as you're focusing on your child learning to the best of, that they can, that they're doing things that are
Hmm.
interesting to them,
Hmm.
and that you're kind of following some of these curriculum guidelines, which I think
Yeah.
most parents are, that
Yeah.
you've mentioned that will prepare them and that colleges will accept, then you're not
Mhm.
missing anything. And it's just hard when you don't have that external validation.
Yeah. Which, by the way, I will say, audience, this is why their book is so important. One of the things that you did that I absolutely loved is you were breaking down this process that you gave us checklists. I don't know about
Mm,
anybody else, but I need those checklists to make sure did I do this thing? Did I do that? And I love that in every chapter, with everyone, you gave us some structure. Can you talk about that structure that we as parents need to have in place? Because it really, when it comes down to it, I know in the conventional space, you've got the college counselors. However, for us, we are the college counselors for our kids. So it's a little bit different there. But at the same time, I also think that sometimes if you're in a high school, and you've got 1,000 kids and you've got maybe one or two counselors, you can get lost in that sea. So in that case, the parent still is the person that needs to be primarily responsible. Can you speak to that, please?
Lisa, I'll let
Yeah.
you take checklist
oh,
question.
Oh, well, we had to have checklists because it's our book and we love checklists. So
Hmm.
any opportunity that I have to make a checklist,
Hmm.
I'm going to make a checklist. And we just really wanted to operationalize it
Hmm.
um, in steps. So we have it broken down like in middle school. These are some process goals that you can try to accomplish, and they're
Hmm.
very specific.
Hmm.
And then for ninth grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, 12th grade. So you can kind of stay on track and do all the things. And then we also have like some worksheets for
Hmm.
figuring out what your priorities are for your kid, which I think is really helpful. That's kind of the basis of all of this, right? And then
Hmm.
how to
Hmm.
research colleges. And then the one that Lynda had to do, because math confuses me, is the financial aid and how to figure out how much college is going to cost and how much you can afford.
Right. Yeah. That's so good. And it's so true. I think one of the things you talked about was the fact that there's that sticker shock. And there's a
Mhm.
difference between what's there, what we see when we first get to the college website versus what we actually pay. I think you talked about that Can you talk a little bit about that and maybe some of the misconceptions around the college application process and looking at that and going, "Ah, we can't do this, or actually maybe we can."
Yeah, I think it's college is kind of like buying the brand new car.
Hmm.
You're probably not paying the sticker price.
Yeah.
Um, you- so don't, I mean, go ahead and check out the Land Rover.
Hmm.
Who knows? Um, I mean, probably not. But I think that as you start looking at schools, every college is required to have a net price calculator on their
Hmm.
website.
Hmm.
And they take, 10 minutes to fill out. They're going to ask you some questions, and it will give you an idea of what you might be expected to pay. There are some limitations to
Hmm.
those net price calculators. Just because they're required to have them on their website does not mean they are required to update their algorithm
Hmm.
every year. They do not always take into account what you might get in terms of merit aid.
Hmm.
And since we're talking about cost, there's merit and there's financial aid.
Mm-hmm.
So financial aid is need-based and
Mm-hmm.
merit is going to be based on your grades, your GPA,
Mm-hmm.
your test scores, things like that. I
Mm-hmm.
personally love it when
Mm-hmm.
schools have that grid on their website that shows you if you got a 3.8 and this
Right.
GPA, you're going to get this much money.
Right.
So
Mm-hmm.
families should absolutely take a look at the net price calculator and see what they might be expected to pay
Mm-hmm.
at that school. And there are services out there as well that
Mm-hmm.
can help you figure that out, of course, for a small fee.
Right.
But and this is why I recommend students, even if you think you might be a test optional student,
Mm-hmm.
go ahead and take the test, the
Mm-hmm.
ACT or the SAT, at
Mm-hmm.
least once, see how you do, because you might be surprised
Mm-hmm.
uh, by the kinds of schools that are going to offer you merit money. And I
Yes.
think families assume that private schools are going to be more expensive
Mm-hmm.
and out of state schools are just not usually an option. And
Mm-hmm.
that's not always the case. A
Right.
lot of those private schools will offer significant merit money,
Mm-hmm.
merit money and or financial aid.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then there are the schools out there that are meets needs schools.
Mm-hmm.
And these do tend to be the most rigorous, hardest to get into colleges. But if you have a student that's high achieving and is looking for money,
Mm-hmm.
I encourage you to take a look at those schools. Of course, with the caveat that they're the ones that decide how much money you actually need.
Mm-hmm.
You don't get to say that,
Mm-hmm.
but they can become quite affordable for families.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like I'm all over the place,
No, you're doing great. I love this. This is so
but
helpful. Mm-hmm.
there are options out there. So
Mhm.
I don't want families who are thinking about what it was like 25 years ago when they went to college and think those same rules apply. They don't.
Mm-hmm.
Princeton just came out and I hope I'm getting it right. Uh, Tuition free for families under $200,000 of income.
Wow.
Um, that's not bad. That's pretty good financial aid. So there are options out there
Mm-hmm.
other than just Princeton.
Right.
Yeah, so
I
the moral
love
of the
it.
story is if you're looking at a private college and you see it costs
Mm-hmm.
$85,000 a year, in most cases, it does not.
Mm-hmm.
Merit aid is used sort of as like a coupon.
Mm-hmm.
So like if you look up and you say like, well, 95% of students who apply get merit aid, then you can pretty much assume you're going to also get a coupon.
Mm-hmm.
And so it might take $20,000, $30,000 a year off of
Mm-hmm.
that $85,000. So just that's what I would just urge people, just don't like look at that and run out of the room screaming because it might not be as bad as you think.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Because
I
it
was
does make you want to
Mhm.
scream when you see
It
those
does.
numbers.
Yeah, it
It's
Mhm.
does. It does. My poor son, when he was like, Mom, we can't afford this. It's like, it's okay. It's okay. Just because it says this doesn't mean that that's what we're going to pay. So I agree so wholeheartedly with that. Sometimes we see that and we think, oh my goodness, there's no way. But there is a way. There can be.
and
There can be a way. Hmm.
I wish they were more upfront
Hmm.
Mhm.
because I
Yeah.
think one of the hardest things is, we tell, shoot your shot.
Right.
Let's see what
Right.
it comes to, and then you have to wait.
Yeah.
You have to wait.
Yeah. You do have to
So
wait.
you might get in, and then you have to wait for the financial aid package,
Hmm.
and that
Hmm.
that can be
Yeah.
um, hard.
Yeah. So what I love so much about what you do in this book is that I believe that you give families hope. You give students hope. You give these parents hope that it doesn't have to be this frenetic process where they're pulling their hair out, where they're like having heart palpitations almost every day. I mean, because I've seen, unfortunately, I've seen even in the homeschool community, you have parents that are like frantic. And to be able to say that there is a better way, there is a sane way way to approach this college process. I think that gives so much hope. I would love for you to speak to two people, as we begin to wrap up. I would love for you to speak to two groups of people. First, would you speak to the students themselves who are getting ready to go into this process, and they're looking at their parents and going, okay, I want to do this, or how do we do this? Can you talk to them and give them that measure of hope that you do in the book?
Sure. Well, I would say to students that it's going to be okay. No matter where you end up going, if you're a resourceful person, you will make it okay. So that is the first thing I would say. Like, it's all going to be fine. But, if you can just do a little bit at a time, starting maybe, by junior year at the latest, just a little bit at a time, every week, make a little bit of progress. Probably by fall of senior year, you'll be done with the applications. And it never has to be that stressful. If you
Mhm,
can, there's one thing I would tell students in addition,
mhm,
and this might not be as applicable to students in the unconventional learning space,
mhm,
but they still talk to kids and they might still be on social media.
mhm,
Try to tune out all of the noise. There's a lot of people on social media who are trying
mhm,
to sell to kids that if you
mhm,
do XYZ, you're going to get into an Ivy. And they're sort of the implicit idea is that the Ivy is the better school. When, as like I said, when we were talking about fit, very well
yeah,
may not be a good school for that student at all. So to try to just step away from that, focus
mhm,
on yourself, focus on what is good for you, and keep your eye on that and trying to just tune out all that other noise. And if you can do that,
mhm,
you'll be you'll be successful. So I had a daughter apply this year, and one of
mhm,
my proudest moments as a human being was when, because we did this, like I lived this with my
mhm,
kid. That's
mhm.
sort of, she was like my guinea pig. So, but when her advisor in the early fall asked her, Sonia, like, what, how much college stress do you
Mhm.
have? How's it going? She said, oh, well, I don't have any college stress. And that's when I
Yay.
knew that, like, we had done something right with
Mhm,
her because, her classmates might be all stressed out. She's just been
mhm.
cool as a cucumber throughout the entire
Yeah.
process.
And listen, let me just tell you that having to tune out the noise, that is universal.
Hmm.
Please don't think because we're in the unconventional learning space that we don't have that same noise. That noise is there because it's just in the culture. It
Yeah.
really is. And it was interesting when you said that. I reminded one of the notes that I had written as I was reading through your book was that, you've heard that adage, how you eat an elephant one bite at a time. And I thought
Hmm.
about that in this Calm College method. It really is one bite at a time. Lynda, what would you say to students in giving them hope as well?
Well, Lisa took all the good stuff right there. So, because that I was going to jump in with the
Mhm,
social media thing.
mhm,
So thanks, Lisa. I ditto.
yeah.
I really think that that is it. And I guess the one thing that I think about what I talk with my students about, I try and impart on them.
Mhm,
I know you're busy right now, and juniors, class of 27, I'm talking to you right now. I
mhm,
know you're busy and you got spring break coming up and prom and all of this. You are going to be busier, I promise you, your senior year in college.
mhm,
If you do exactly what Lisa said, one bite at a time, even starting now, it will be better. I find students really underestimate um, how much time it can take not just to apply to college, but to apply well.
mhm,
Uh, and
Hmm.
it takes time. So don't don't put it off. I know you're going to be busy
Hmm.
this summer with all of the things, but do a little bit of work this summer.
I
Yeah,
love
and if
it.
I could just add one more thing that I would like to say to the kids out there is be yourself. Authenticity is gold in college admissions. Don't feel like you have to be somebody that you think a college admissions officer is going to like, because that
Mhm,
doesn't work. But if you
mhm.
are like, and I always joke with my students that it's radical authenticity, like we're raw and real around here and we are
Love
just going
it.
to be ourselves. And if someone doesn't like it, then too bad for them. But
Right.
be yourself, be who you are, and hopefully the schools that see who you are and say,
Mhm.
we want that person here. That's a really neat person. Those are going to be good fits for you. That's where you want to go.
Mhm. I
And
love it.
and I do
Mhm.
think that's where unconventional schoolers
Mhm.
have a leg up
Mhm.
because I think you really can uh, come to the college application process with unique applications.
Mhm.
It's not cookie cutter education.
Yeah.
And colleges are not looking for those cookie cutter students. So
Mhm.
you have a definite leg up on conventional students in that
Wow.
instance.
Great. That is so good. And I love it because I've said that so many times. Hey guys, the fact that you're outside of the traditional model makes you unique right there. Just continue on that. And I love what you said about being authentic and being your unique self. Because in my head, I immediately think of that poor kid that says, "Okay, I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna make you myself look like this person." And then they get into that environment, and I just imagine the stress of being able to keep that up when it's not the authentic you. At some point, you're gonna crash and burn. So
Mhm.
just better for you to be yourself, every part of you, be yourself. And I love that that's what you're telling our kids to do, and it's just beautiful. Would you also
Yeah.
please now speak to these parents? Oh my goodness, because I was one of them. Can you
Well,
please speak to
I'm one
these
of them.
parents?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we all are, right? These parents who
Mhm.
who want so much. Oh, I just almost get emotional because I think I know we want so much for our kids. We just that's our heart. Our heart is so much for our kids, and I think sometimes we get so caught up into that. We just could you speak to that parent that
Mhm.
may be so like and they're getting stressed out, and they're like wondering if they're doing the right thing, and they need to know that there's hope out there. Can you please, please, please speak to these parents?
Yeah. Well, if I could, I would take those parents out for maybe some ice cream
Mm.
or maybe even something stronger. But and I would tell these parents that it's going to be okay. You've put if you care about your kid this much, you've already done it right. I
Mhm.
mean, as a psychologist, I talk to a lot of people at, various stages in their life. And, parents are imperfect, like they make mistakes, but if kids know that their parents love them and wanted the best for them, it's all good. They can deal with all those little foibles. So you're doing it right already. And the thing is that this is a process for your child to figure out two things, who the heck they are and how
Mhm.
to get stuff done. And if
Mhm.
you're in there doing it all the time, they're not going to figure out either one. So, as hard as it is, you
Yeah.
got to try to step back, give them the tools that they need to do all those things. We're not like, okay, good luck, figure it out yourself, find out who
Mhm.
you are, and apply to college.
Mhm.
Structure, assistance, but that they can figure those things out. They can have that experience.
Mhm.
Um, that's the main thing, and that's the goal. If the goal is
Mhm.
not to get into, remember, it's not to get into X, Y, or Z school, it's to have your student have a better sense of themselves and know how to do a big project by
Mhm.
the time they're done with this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I relate to that because as parents, we all do want the best thing for our students. And
Mhm.
um, my daughter, she did a grade skip. She did curriculum compacting. There were a lot of very lengthy conversations with teachers and counselors and principals throughout her K-12 time. And it was very difficult not to get into that mindset. You mean I put in all of this effort and time and she might not get into XYZ school?
Mhm.
What have I done it for? And I can see how easy it is for parents to fall into that trap
Mhm.
because I was right there with you.
Mhm.
But exactly what Lisa was saying, that's not really, it's that paradigm shift. And your child really is more important than any college. And I go back and I look, and my kid could have been happy at any of the schools on her list. So take a deep breath, parents.
Mhm.
There is life after worrying about college, and they're going to be fine.
Yeah,
love
and
it.
I would say, and having gone through this process very recently, that the Calm College method is great for
Mhm.
taking away stress, getting all the applications in. Waiting for decisions, it's the same as everybody else. I know the day that the decisions came out for my daughter's top choice school, it felt like literally the longest day of my life. I was like, it is never going to be 7 p.m. If I only had one day to live, I would pick that day because I would have lived a full life in the time it took. And my mom, who is so wise, was like, it's going to be fine. Either she'll get in or she'll go someplace else. It's fine. I'm like, yeah, intellectually, I knew that, but
Mhm.
I didn't want my daughter to be disappointed. And, she wasn't. But if she had been, it would have been fine. She would have learned from it. She would have gone to some other schools. She might have, the same or better experience at those schools. We can't run that
Mhm.
whole, experiment and see how that turned out. But yeah, you're gonna feel some anxiety, and I really wish I had a better way to deal with that. Maybe that's the next book if I ever figure that one out, but I might probably
Yes.
not.
Yes.
So,
It, and it's okay. It's okay. And to try and keep that from your kid,
Mhm.
I tell parents this. I don't usually tell students this. I had my, not me, my daughter had one decision. It was like, oh yeah, that's it was a wait list.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yes. And
Mhm.
after she went to bed, I went in the room and I cried. I was like, oh, I can't believe this.
Mhm.
It was not a dream school.
Mhm.
But it's even when you write a book about how to approach things calmly,
Mhm.
mm,
it's a lot. It is
Yeah.
the whole process is a lot for families.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, she's
I
fine.
love it.
She got into like her third choice. She's fine.
There you go. There you go. And I think that's what she said. I think what I love about it at the end of the day, when all is said and done, our kids are going to be okay. We're going to be good. You're going to be good parents. So that's wonderful. So you're talking about webinars and services that you also make available. Can you speak on that? Because I think that's also a wonderful resource for parents that are out there and for families and for groups.
sure. We will be happy to do webinars for groups.
Hmm.
We didn't write this book to get rich, obviously. We wrote it to help people. We really want to take the stress out of the college process. We really want to give parents the tools that they need
Hmm.
to have a calm and successful process. So if we can be of help to your group, and we can even tailor it. Like if your group has a specific focus, if you let us know, we'd be happy to hop on your Zoom and give you some more information.
And that
Excellent.
can look like tailor it or just ask me anything.
Hmm.
So if you ever wanted, I just wish I could ask questions with my friends and
Yes.
find out more. That can happen as well. But
Excellent.
scholarships are a common one. How to
Hmm.
Hmm.
research schools,
Hmm.
uh,
Hmm.
the Common App questions, all of
Hmm.
that.
Yeah, I think that was for us. Probably you talked recently when we were in earlier in the conversation, you mentioned how very different it is nowadays versus when we went to college. I There was no such thing as Common App when I was going to University of Maryland. There was like none of that. And so we found that in and of itself is a whole new animal for my kids. Oh my goodness, that was just what in the world? So, yeah. And I think the other thing that was really helpful too was recognizing that there were, and you mentioned this as well, there are so many colleges and universities. I think sometimes we tend to focus on the big names and we miss these amazing schools that are out there that are literally just waiting for our kids. They are waiting
Hmm.
for their applications to come in. And when we pay attention to these big names, we miss these incredible opportunities. I will tell you, my son would have never even thought of UMES, but it was just one of those many, many colleges that was out there that said, "Hey, we like what we see, and would you apply?" And so he just kind of did, and it was like, and that's where he is now. But I think, having recognizing parents recognizing that there's so many options out there.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And that's where your research really can come in. I
Hmm.
mean, I learned something new. Every student that I work with, I learned something new about a college. I'm like,
Hmm.
oh my God, they do that. They offer this
Right.
program. Oh, that's amazing. And there are
Hmm.
so many colleges, and there might not be names you know who are
Hmm.
doing incredible things. And that one of those things might be just what your kid needs.
Right. Oh, and can you speak to that? Because I think sometimes we tend to think of the big name schools, but then we miss the fact that they may have a big name, but maybe this department or this major isn't like the top in the nation. No, it isn't the best for your kid. It's not necessarily the best for, they like again, they may have this big name, they may have the Harvards, the Yales, or whatever, but maybe in this specific area of your interest, that may not be the school that's really going to propel you to where you want to go long term for a career.
Right. So if you're interested in engineering, and a lot of
Hmm.
students think they are interested in engineering,
Hmm.
sometimes for the paycheck
Hmm.
after college, well, one of the engineering fields that pays the best is petroleum engineering. The best place for petroleum engineers is like Oklahoma,
Mhm.
not Caltech, not MIT. So it's that kind of thing. Or I
Hmm.
work with business students,
Hmm.
and or say they want to go into marketing,
Hmm.
and oh, they look, and this happens all too often. They look at the front page of all the majors. Oh, well, CU Boulder, I think, doesn't offer marketing. I'm like,
Hmm.
if you would click on that button right there, you'd see they have all of these concentrations. And as a matter of fact, it's a wonderful school
Hmm.
for marketing.
Hmm.
So I think encouraging students to realize they don't know everything,
Hmm.
and helping them research. And this is something we encourage parents to do,
Hmm.
because parents usually are better at researching, and they're
Hmm.
looking for a way to be involved in the process.
Yeah.
And helping research schools is one of those things that parents can help with, that I don't feel is
Yeah.
too helicoptery,
Yeah.
in my perspective anyway,
Yeah.
to get them involved.
Can you talk about that briefly about like sometimes there's this tension, right? From a parent standpoint of, how much is I'm too much, I'm helicoptering versus okay, I'm just gonna let them do it themselves. I mean, where is that? Can you help us kind of you're right, right? Because I think about that. I think about you have, and you do have both
Uh,
extremes. You do have both extremes, and there almost is this tension. So, help us get a gauge for a parent. Okay, yeah, you can do this. Don't do this for them, but go ahead and do this, and how your
yeah,
book
that
addresses that. Hmm.
that line between, being supportive and being over
Hmm.
controlling, it moves all the time, depending on what situation you're in. So
Yeah.
that is a tricky question, but I would say
Hmm.
parents can do things that are more like administrative, like
Hmm.
scheduling visits and trips. That's a lot of stuff that maybe your kid doesn't have time to do. I
Hmm.
think doing some background research so that parents are educated on the schools, and I think that's fair because I don't
Hmm.
think most of the kids are paying fully for that school. So I
Right.
think parents want to make sure that they're putting out some money, that they are doing it for a good reason. And so for
Hmm.
parents to be educated. But when you find yourself doing things for the student, like, let's say you read your student's essay and it's,
Hmm.
not great, or you think it's not great. So you sit
Hmm.
down and you completely rewrite it and change it. That's not great. It might be
Yeah.
better to hand it back and say, this is my feedback. These are things I think you might want to change.
Hmm.
Parents sometimes worry when it comes to an essay that it doesn't sound like a, cover letter to a job that they might apply for.
Hmm.
That's sort of the frame of reference. But college
Hmm.
essays are very different. And, it has to sound like a teenager wrote it. So if it sounds
Hmm.
like a 45-year-old wrote it, colleges can tell.
Yeah.
So don't write things. I mean, doing some of the secretarial work, especially if you have a kid who has ADHD. My oldest had
Hmm.
ADHD, and
Hmm.
like, for her to like figure out like when all the deadlines were, it's just been too
Hmm.
much.
Yeah.
But, so I was like, we have to apply for this one now. We have to apply for this one now. That's like that scaffolding.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, generally, if you're putting your 2 cents in on content for the application,
Hmm.
you probably shouldn't be.
Gotcha.
And
Gotcha.
that's important
Hmm.
even for I think for all students,
Mm-hmm.
ADHD or not, the
Mm-hmm.
stakes are high
Mm-hmm.
for a lot of these. And one of my suggestions to students, and I think this is a like top five suggestion when you start early, is get
Mm-hmm.
yourself an email account that is just for college admissions
That's
process
good. Yeah,
and
that's good.
share the login information with your parents
Mm.
because I know the teenager is not good at checking email. They may be amazing at texting, they're
Mm-hmm.
terrible at email
Mm-hmm.
because things get missed. I talked
Mm-hmm.
with a family just last week um, who did not have access to the students' portals
Wow.
and missed the scholarship deadlines.
Oh,
And
heartbreak. Oh my
yeah,
goodness.
it is a heartbreak. So I
Mm.
think those administrative tasks,
Mm-hmm.
that's really where parents can help
That's so
because
good.
students are busy. I
Yeah.
mean, I tell them they should, they're going to get busier, but they are busy. They have a
Mm-hmm.
lot on their plates.
Mm-hmm.
And so if parents can help with some of those things, I think
That's
it's
so
okay.
good.
But as far as writing, I agree 1000%
Yeah.
with Lisa.
Yeah. It,
Admissions officers can absolutely, they can
mm-hmm.
tell. They
Mm-hmm.
can tell.
And it's got to be them. It has to be their story. I
Mhm.
remember with Samuel, I was like, Samuel, just tell your story. And he had a hard, I said, sweetie, I know it's difficult because there was some, we had a hard road um, when he was in high school. But I said, but share your story because even in the hard stuff, where you are now shows your resiliency, shows that you were able to overcome a lot of challenges. So just be authentic. I love when we were talking about being your authentic and being your real self. I said, just do that and don't be afraid of it. Don't back away from that. So, yeah,
Yeah.
that was good. That was good. That was good. Wow, ladies. So good. So good. So good. Okay. So, there's another question that I think I already know the answer to, but is it ever too late? Is there ever a time you go, nope, it's just too late. Can't do it. Is it ever too late? Really?
No, no. I mean, we're here for you picking up at any point. And
Mm-hmm.
we try to emphasize that in the book. You might have to do things in a bit more compressed way.
Mm-hmm.
And you might have to just deal with whatever decisions you made in the past, good or bad, but
Mm-hmm.
they are what they are. And you work that situation from where you start. You just do the steps that are applicable to the time. So I would say, I mean, there are colleges still accepting applications. If you're still not happy with how things are turning out, you can put in more applications. You could start your applications now.
Mm-hmm.
So it is not too late. It usually is not too late.
I love it. And that's like the great hope there. It's never too late.
Mm-mm.
We want to start early, but if you've got a late start, it's still never too late um, to help your kids meet their dreams. So that's beautiful. That's beautiful. Ladies, I want to thank you for your time. Please let us know how can our audience get in touch with you. We're going to
Mhm.
have links below that are linked to the book as well. I'm going to encourage everyone, whether you're a homeschooler, unconventional learning space, whether you're in a traditional educational setting, to get this book. It will save you headaches. It will save you sleepless nights. It will save you stress. It will do all of those things and more. But would you please let us know how can we get in touch with you? Please share your website, all the ways.
Sure. The website is the collegeadmissionscollective.com. And you can find links to the book there, which you can find on Amazon, Barnes and
Mhm.
Noble, and you will find links to our socials. We are on Instagram and Facebook. We are not social media gurus, but we are there. But the collegeadmissionscollective.com is
Mhm.
the best place to find us.
Yeah, and for those of you who are on Substack, you do have a pretty active Substack going right now, and it's CA Collective, where Lynda and I rant about various things that might be upsetting us that day, but also just try to give more general advice. Because when you see college admissions and you see how schools act, there are things to rant about. I'm not going to
Hmm.
lie, but so that's another great way you can get in touch with us as well, but please do reach out, send us an email, reach out on Substack. I will say, like, I believe if you have Amazon right now, as of this recording, our book is available for Kindle Unlimited, so you can
Hmm.
read it for, no additional charge to
Hmm.
yourself. So that's a way to kind of dip in and see if you like it or not. And we do hope that if you do get it, you find it helpful. If you
Hmm.
have suggestions, like we would probably do a second edition of this book. So
Please.
if people think we left out this, you didn't mention that, that's wrong, great. Send us an email
Oh.
so we can compile that and we can make the book even better for future readers.
I love it. I will tell you that one of my colleagues said, "Hey, are they going to do one on scholarships?" I was like, "I don't know. Maybe they will." But I will tell you, the folks so far that I've shared it with have been just so excited about your book. I will tell you that I have, and the audience who knows me knows I've got 6 kids. I've graduated 5 so far. I've gone through this process. I will tell you that I learned so much. I learned so much reading your book. I wish I had it in my hands many, many years ago when I first started this process with my oldest. But nonetheless, I will tell you, audience out there, listen, if there's a college application Bible, this is it. You have really made it possible for parents such as myself to go through this process in a way that helps us keep our sanity. And listen, I'm all for that. So thank you again, ladies. Thank you for your time. Thank you for sharing your expertise with our audience. Thank you for sharing your incredible book. Again, everyone, click on the links below that will take you to their website, that will take you to their book. I cannot stress how important I think this is to have in your arsenal with your kids. If you have children that are anywhere that are being educated, if you have children at some point, they're going to go someplace, they're going to do something, even if it's a trade school, whatever it is. I'm going to tell you that you want this book in your arsenal. Ladies, again, thank you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for being here and for sharing your wisdom with us today.
Well, thank you, Kim, for having us. Lynda and I just love your energy. We think what you're doing is so amazing, and we're just glad that we could be a part of it today.
Thank you. Thank you, ladies. We'll see you. Enjoy.